Hey guys, today we wanted to talk a little bit about how in our history different marginalized groups have not always been treated the same as other groups. Despite efforts to make things right for these groups, America hasn't always been very successful.
To explain this, we're going to specifically talk about the Cherokee Indians and the Trail of Tears. After the Trail of Tears, some of the Cherokee Indians chose to integrate into our society while others did not.
We want to talk about how life for these people have been different than ours and the Cherokee efforts to make a place where they feel like they belong. First, let's start with the history. About 200 years ago, the Cherokee Indians lived in the southeast part of what is now the United States. This is where they would remain until the 1830s when Andrew Jackson would sign the Indian Removal Act.
This act was signed for the purpose of expansion and because Americans have found gold in that land. Jackson ordered that the 15,000 Indians be removed from the area and taken to reservations that they had made west of the Mississippi. It was ultimately unfair and cruel to pull people from their homes like that.
This move of the Indians became known as the Trail of Tears. 1/3 of the Cherokee people didn't even make it to their destination. They died along the way.
Now, apart from the Cherokees, there were 566 federally recognized tribes located in 35 different states. After being moved, the Indians reacted in two ways. Some chose to stay on the reservation in efforts to preserve their culture and their language, but some chose to move off and try to become part of an American culture and take advantage of the economic opportunities it could bring.
Depending on what they chose would decide how they were treated. Because these different paths that they chose opened them up to different experiences, we're just going to focus on the Cherokees that decided to stay on the reservation and the challenges they faced moving forward. When we look at a specific experience of the Cherokee Indians, it helps to look at it from a sociological standpoint to really understand why the different groups behaved the way that they did.
Here we see something called conflict theory.
Conflict theory is defined as a state of competition that societies are constantly in over resources, power, and inequality. We are able to see this with the Trail of Tears because the group with the more resources and power, aka the American people, were the ones that would dominate in the end.
And the Native Americans happened to have what they wanted. This theory also applies to the way the Native Americans are still treated today. Because the U.S. has always dominated over the Native Americans, the sort of attitude towards them still remains. Americans tend to assume that whatever is the Native Americans is ours, that we own their stuff and they should just stay in their place on the reservation.
Currently, the Cherokees experience residential segregation more than anything. They are separated off from the society and put in their own area. With this, they experience a concept known as total institution.
Total institution is when a great number of similar people are put into one area separate from the rest of the community. Normally, these people are here for some time and end up leading an enclosed life.
Because of residential segregation and total institution, the Indians on the reservation aren't able to partake in opportunities of our society because they are very closed off from our society. They have a society all of their own. This society doesn't always have as many opportunities, and this leads to very low unemployment rates and very high crime rates among the people.
Because the Native American people aren't required to be on the reservation if they don't want to, they do leave and have interactions with others.
This is when they experience a concept known as roles.
Roles are defined as what is expected of an individual who has a certain social position or status.
When the Native people leave the reservation, people tend to treat them a certain stereotype. People have this idea of the role of Native American people are supposed to take on. So they see them off the reservation and they treat them like they are at a place in our society because people assume that the reservation is where they're supposed to be. They treat them like aliens because they simply just don't understand.
People also have the idea that the media has put in their heads how Native Americans are supposed to look and act when they don't act like that. People don't know what to think about it.
The Native American people have made efforts to try to not let this type of segregation define them.
They have created their own society within their own walls. They have a totally separate economic system, school system, and set of laws.
Even though these people feel like they are held back from certain opportunities because of life on the reservation, they are still trying to make efforts to make things better in their own way. They are doing this by improving school systems, fighting the crime within their walls, such as the war on drugs that they are dealing with currently.
Social media has been a great help as far as spreading the word about the struggles the natives face with living on the reservation.
Because people who aren't of Native American descent can still visit the reservations, outsiders are able to go in and see what life is like, and then take to social media to spread the word.
Because of how quickly word spreads via the internet, social media can hopefully be a tool to help the reservations improve their state with the help of outsiders who simply don't look the other way when it comes to helping our country's original inhabitants.
Sadly, a lot of times people don't even think about the natives and their lives on the reservations because they are so separate from us, and we aren't very educated on how they're doing. Social media can hopefully change that.
There has been some, but not a lot of help given to the Native American people by the American government to try and help them out with some of their difficulties that they face because they are separated off our society. As an example, the American government gives a check to the Native American people to try and help them and make up for everything that they have done to them. But this is nowhere near enough to help with their growing problems.
It doesn't always help the Indian people. It also doesn't help the Indian people because they're not allowed to own their land. They are only allowed to own land within the reservation. It makes it hard for the people to have any type of growing economy on their own.
If we as a society can make a special effort to put more money aside for these people, maybe they could actually have the needed funding to grow their governments and give their people more opportunities.
It would be the least that we could do after everything we've taken from them. In conclusion, the mass movement of the Cherokee tribes, as well as other tribes of Native Americans, into total institutions has had a negative influence to their qualities of life due to the state of the reservations.
Because of conflict theory, it started the mass movement of many tribes to the reservations, which ultimately changed the attitude of the American people towards the Native Americans, and still to this day has the Native Americans somewhat separated from our society.
As a nation, we need to realize the sacrifices they made for us as a country, and we need to be better by helping them grow as we grow instead of separating us further from them. So this is our Works Cited page that has all of our sources, and I hope that you guys enjoyed our video and that y'all have a great Christmas break.